And I think I think this is one of the reasons why, I talk about intersectionality again, like starting from the self. One, because we're constantly changing and growing. Things are constantly changing, even within ourselves. So I feel like, depending on what identities you hold, your power and privileges constantly shift too, And so when we're talking about being in an embodied practice, it is like it's essential because things shift and change. Your awareness about things shifts and changes because your positionality, your status, like where you're at with things, it changes, and an example of that would be, going from employed to unemployed, underemployed, or if you become ill or sick in some type of way,
Hmm.
um, going from, you know, only having to kind of navigate the things for yourself and then shifting into a caregiver role, So, because those kinds of things are always changing for us, that's one of the reasons that intersectionality being a practice is so important because the way you embody that shifts and changes too.
Yes, I love that. I mean, it's so, that's, you're right. Like, that's why it needs to be a practice, because it's always, you're right, the fluidity, it's always going to be changing. And I love that you are inviting us to to practice intersectionality starting with the self. And I know that's important because when we look at the actual classic definition, like Kimberly Crenshaw's definition, she's inviting us to look at the system, which is great, you know? Like, it's so important. And I would venture to say that that article, that seminal article, wasn't necessarily written for people like us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it was written for the legal scholars who are missing. She's a legal scholar, right? Like, it was written at the time. It was written for a particular audience,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, it was for everybody, right? Like, it
Mm-hmm.
was for all of us. And yeah, you're right. Like, it does start with the self. It has to. It has to.